250 measles cases have been reported by 12 states across the country, including Washington, according to the CDC.
Although a majority of the cases are in western Texas and New Mexico, as the cases continue to rise, the Oregon Health Authority is warning families not to host measles parties. Fox 12's Mackenzie Richmond joins us now live with more on that. Mackenzie?
Yeah, so the idea of a measles party is similar to the idea of a chicken pox party, which was popular before the vaccine to actually purposefully expose children to the virus in a way that allegedly would hopefully try and build their immune system. But the Oregon Health Authority is actually warning against that, saying measles can be extremely dangerous, especially for children younger than 5 years old. The virus can cause brain swelling, pneumonia, and even death. However, as measles cases are on the rise, vaccine rates nationwide are actually falling. The CDC data found that under 93% of kindergartners across the states have the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, setting an increase in vaccine skepticism and rejection since the COVID-19 vaccines. That's a contributing factor to the fall.
Measles is not a harmless childhood infection. You know, if you look at the Texas outbreak in particular, a little over 1 in 5 people are ending up in a hospital.
So far, 2 people have died from the current measles outbreak. One, a school-aged child in Texas, and the other, an adult in New Mexico. Both of them were unvaccinated. Now, to prevent infections, officials say more people need to get the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. In fact, this week, Texas officials even expanded their vaccine guidelines to include infants as young as 6 months old in areas where cases are the highest. And Oregon health officials are also encouraging those here to get the vaccine to stay safe. For now, reporting live, Mackenzie Richmond for Good Day Oregon.